In this video, I'll show why discriminatory models and policies are on the horizon, why people subscribe to that practice, and how much precedent already exists. Then, in the next video, I'll make the argument that discriminatory models violate the principles of social justice and civil liberties. Now, some of you watching believe this practice is self-evidently wrong and not even worthy of addressing, in part since proponents of such discrimination are only fringe. But it's actually not as fringe as you think. In fact, many others of you watching this aren't so sure. After all, shouldn't we do everything we can to improve predictions when the stakes are high? When models get it wrong, we suffer grave consequences, including prematurely released criminals who will strike again, terrorists who go by undetected, fraudsters who steal millions, and when credit scoring goes wrong, millions in defaulting debt we must write off. Here's how the proponents make their case. If the costs weren't so extraordinarily high, we'd certainly avoid deploying procedures that may hurt the feelings of members of a certain race or religion, but if the data shows a higher risk for some groups, and the model's able to incorporate that in order to improve predictive performance, wouldn't it be foolhardy, irrational, sentimental, and overly idealistic political correctness not to do so? After all, even if we disallow them, protected classes will be reflected by other proxy variables. You can't get away from the empirical discovery of what may be uncomfortable and yet predictively valuable trends that hold for certain groups. Could it be that these two professors advocating discriminatory models who I mentioned in the previous video were onto something? After all, sometimes under the name of rational discrimination, screening by protected class is advocated by many. For example, 36% of US citizens would support a religion-based policy to ban Muslims from entering the country. For the sake of argument, assume that an immigrating Muslim has a small fractional probability of being a terrorist that is higher than the probability for any other major religion. Not because Islamic doctrines are more susceptible to the perversions of extremism, but as a result of geopolitical and socioeconomic factors, even if some terrorists claim they've acted in the name of religion. There are conflicting objectives. If we're to adopt religious equality, then religion can play no part in any kind of vetting. But a proponent of rational discrimination would rather risk political incorrectness than endanger civilian lives. In the next video, I'm going to argue vehemently against discriminatory models. But first, here's some more precedent. 10 example policies in the US and Europe that pave the way for the acceptance of discriminatory models. 1. Transgender individuals have been banned from the US military. 2. U.S. Justice Department policy allows federal agents to racially profile within the vicinity of the U.S. border. 3. The complete 100% lack of female players in certain big league sports indicates an effective policy based on gender. 4. Resumes with white-sounding names receive 50% more responses than those with African-American sounding names. 5. In the U.S., 20 states do not explicitly prohibit racial profiling. 6. Police of Cologne, Germany profiled for North African, Arab-looking men on New Year's Eve 2017 and publicly defended doing so. 7. The book Super Freakonomics espouses a discriminatory terrorist model developed by a UK bank analyst that incorporates the suspect's religion. 8. U.S. consulates racially profile visa applicants to render entry decisions despite it being an outlawed practice. 9. From 2003 to 2014, the New York Police Department ran a special squad that surveyed Muslims specifically. And 10, finally, polls show that 75% of Americans support increased airport security checks based in part on ethnicity, and 25% of Americans support the use of racial profiling by police. Now, I personally find this precedent alarming, but proponents of rational discrimination would shy away from labels like racist and prejudice. After all, these words are extremely pejorative, suggesting a bigoted, unruly perspective rather than a dispassionate commitment to objective facts. Data is power. The more you have, the better the model's predictions. Practitioners see it time and time again. Introducing any new independent variable will potentially improve your predictive model. In this way, some data sets may compel discrimination. It's the ultimate rationale for discrimination. It's like the data seems to be saying to you, be racist. Many believe we must allow, in some cases, policies that treat people differently by protected classes. There's a great shyness to admitting this publicly due to the backlash that ensues, but the belief comes out in murmurs as well as the occasional proud proclamation. They're publicly stigmatized and in some cases shut down, but in other cases, discriminatory policies prevail. And discriminatory models may well come to prevail as well. I hope not. But beyond all the shaming, how do you form a coherent case against that practice? That's what I'll cover in the next video.